All right, welcome to the podcast. We are recording live here at Talkaholics on a Thursday night. My co-host is Alvin Chu, and my guest is Jermaine Lucious. Did I pronounce it right?
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah, all right, cool. Good. The levels sound good. I don't need these headphones. So you came to the podcast. Well, first we met working on a film with Ron Scott called The Sticks.
The Sticks, yes.
And was that the first film you worked on with
us? That was the first film, yeah. I missed out on the first one, and like everybody else wanted to jump in for the second one.
Yeah, and so we met through that, and I think we talked about doing a podcast over the summer, and whatever happened, I ended up having to cancel that day, and we didn't get around to it. And then I saw a post that you had about Bill Cosby, and I thought, man, that's an intriguing take on it.
Oh, yeah, well, that kind of hit me kind of deep, you know.
Let's get right into it.
Well, my take on Cosby is it's hard for me not to feel emotional about it, and it kind of upsets me, it angers me, because I didn't know this man. I knew the character he played. So for a celebrity to invoke that kind of emotion in me angers me to my core.
Yeah.
But also, Bill Cosby always kind of reminded me of my father, because my father wasn't a very humorous person, but he did this little Bill Cosby impersonation, and they were roughly the same age. But you have to sit back and think to yourself, that's not your father.
Yeah.
That wasn't your friend.
Yeah.
That this guy was a monster.
Yeah.
And for me to even have any remorse right now, really, it bugs me still thinking about it. So.
Well, and it is kind of a crazy story too, because I mean, he had this squeaky clean kind of comedy act. I remember listening to his albums when I was a kid and playing them loud in the house, and there were no cuss words. There was nothing that you have to like worry about your parents hearing them. And then the Cosby Show obviously was groundbreaking television, and then he kind of got a little hassle later on, because I think he kind of gave Eddie Murphy a hard time about his humor, and thought that some of the stuff they were doing was offensive, and so for it to come out that I've heard it said that he might be the biggest serial rapist in known history.
Possibly. I like to say that Bill Cosby was this beautiful lie, and people like Richard Pryor were the ugly truth, you know?
That's a really good way to put it.
Yeah, definitely.
You have to respect somebody like Pryor, who went out there and talked about the worst parts of his life, you know, being his wife, his catching fire, freebasing, you know, his issues with the cops. Then you have somebody like Bill Cosby that would act self-righteous and then put down other comedians for being too dirty. Yeah. When you were, you know...
He was a rapist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then it also makes you wonder if he even thought what he was doing was wrong at all, you know?
Yeah, and I think that was kind of the nature of the Facebook post, and it did pose an interesting question. You know, I think Bill Cosby was famous since before any of us were born.
Oh, yeah.
And he was a pretty young man, and he was also black and famous in a time when that really, I think that was even before a lot of the major breakthroughs in the civil rights movement, and he still was able to kind of break out of that, and so I think he was a symbol in many ways.
And definitely, and also, you know, part of that is I can understand why there's a backlash. The want to defend Bill Cosby, or think that there was some kind of conspiracy, because this country does have a past of treating blacks, especially when it comes to crimes in the sexual nature, a lot harsher. I remember touring the Moundsville Penitentiary 2 years ago, and you look at that huge wall of everybody that was executed there, and it's just fascinating because you look at the numbers, and executions for murder were about 65% white, 35% black. 10 people were executed in Moundsville for rape. Nine of them were black, and there was one white guy.
Really?
So-
Because I never thought of that as
Yeah.
even being a crime that people were executed for. But
Well, only if you were black.
Yeah.
Before the 1920s, apparently.
yeah.
So when you have a history like that, I can understand the wanting to make excuses for Cosby, but I think even the community has to step up and point out the wrongs.
Yeah.
Well, sort of what's crazy is that, there's this whole thing about Cosby and, rightfully so, people have come forward and given testimony and everything, and now he's in jail. But you have someone like Harvey Weinstein who is also accused, and he's out scot-free. Like, nothing's happened to him right now, or not that I know of. And it's kind of a weird standard that you have someone so prominent like Bill Cosby, but in his own right, Harvey Weinstein is just as prominent.
Just as bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just as bad, for sure.
So historically, I could see why that argument's made, especially in the black community. And I think we can't lament the harsh, not I would call it harsh, but the punishment that Cosby got. I think everybody as a society should demand that sex offenders across the board get treated as harshly as I'd say harshly, but the same kind of punishment.
He shouldn't be cutting any slack.
Yeah,
because
everybody
he's
should be
famous or because he's black or for any other reason.
Everybody should be charged and treated in the legal system like a black man when it comes to sex offenses.
Well, and I thought that was a good point that he, in that era, the Mad Men era, where you slap the secretary on the ass, was that at that time when he engaged in that behavior to begin with, was that more the norm in Hollywood, or I look at it now like under no circumstances would I ever think that was right, and so it is
Well, have you seen his stand-up from the early '60s when he talks about Spanish Fly?
right.
Yeah, and
So
he
was
talks
already-
about slipping something into a woman's drink and making her instantly turned on, where you can take advantage of her. And at the time, society-wise, it's funny and all, but looking back at it, it makes you wonder if is he partially a product of his times as well?
Yeah, I think, and also with a lot of celebrities, they also begin to live in a bubble, in which we saw with Matt Lauer and all these other people after Harvey Weinstein, and that I think that you live in this world where you're the star and everybody else is kind of yes sir, and you forget the way normal people
Society
live.
actually works.
And you just become so out of touch. Not that it makes it excusable, because there are a lot of famous people that are not drugging and raping people.
Yeah.
So I think it is probably a little bit of it is a flaw of character, and that's amplified by fame and the society at the times. Obviously, everybody back then wasn't engaging in that same
nobody's
behavior.
making these accusations about Dick Gregory or anything like that right now either. So, I can't say, I think it's maybe under. I feel like I was almost excusing his behavior by saying, product of his times, because there were a lot of comedians from that time that nobody said that about, coming forward. So
George Carlin wasn't drugged.
Yeah, so maybe I shouldn't say it like that.
Well, I think it was important that you asked the question, and that's why I thought that you would make for a good guest on it, because this kind of goes to a larger question. That we kind of are in this culture now where there's a lot of PC stuff, and you have to watch what you say, and I think it's more important now than ever to have a dialogue on things like that, and to pose those kind of questions, even though it might bring a harsh reaction. And I think for me, it's admirable that you put yourself out there to ask that question, when some people might take it the wrong way, which I don't think that. Reading the comment, I thought it was an interesting question to pose, and I don't think that you were taking sides. You were just posing questions, and 10 years ago, that wouldn't have been anything. But
Oh, yeah.
in the climate that we live in now,
I didn't read the post, or I don't know if anyone else has. So could you?
yeah. So
state-
he was
state what
basically
the-
just referring to Bill Cosby, asking if well, maybe you can.
Well, I think the point of the post was asking is if Bill Cosby was this anomaly, or was he more of a product of his time, and maybe it was more prevalent back then. Which, we talk about more,
Yeah.
I'm sure it was a lot of horrible things happen more often than it does today. Because you can look at the rape numbers now; they're a lot lower than they were 30 years ago. And you have to imagine that women are more I'd like to believe that women are more likely to come forward today than they were 30 years
Yeah.
ago. So, it's definitely better than it was 30 years ago.
Yeah. And I would say certainly, it's kind of funny, men talking about this, but again, that kind of goes back to my original point that men should be able to talk about this too. Granted, it's a given that we're talking about it from the advantage point of three men. Having said that, I think we're allowed to say from our point of view, which is what all that we're saying, that we're allowed to comment on it. But I like to think that certain things are less socially acceptable. Obviously, rape has always been bad, but even just in the workplace, I think it was probably a lot more common, especially when women weren't so prevalent in the workforce. I don't know how true. I go back to Mad Men because they kind of illustrated that point pretty well. I don't know how much that rings true, but it does seem like that was pretty authentic. At least the experiences of a lot of people that were that kind of behavior in the office place was generally acceptable.
Definitely.
And maybe even lauded in certain places.
But I have to say, I'm happy there's a Me Too movement. If I have a daughter one day, I'd like to believe that hopefully that we're moving in the right direction and things are going to be safer for women moving forward.
Yeah. I think that's definitely the hopes that along with all the other things in society, that people have become more aware and things like that have become less acceptable. I think at least on the average person level, although with Harvey Weinstein, we realize how deep this kind of runs in Hollywood, and but then I think that the entertainment business is a weird business, and I hope that it's not. The averages aren't the same in the rest of society that it seems to be in Hollywood.
Well, it's a different power structure in Hollywood too.
Yeah.
And you include the money, and where one person can make or break your career, or blacklist you like Harvey Weinstein did. I'm not sure if he was the norm in Hollywood. It seems like a lot of weird stuff happens in Hollywood. But you get somebody like him that gets in a position like that, he can cause a lot of damage, which you can see, more so than, somebody that works at a post office or at the local restaurant can,
One thing about Hollywood, particularly with actors, and I know it's just because I kind of, when I even thought about making movies, going from being a musician that played in bands, where once you kind of get your band together, you had this unit that, for the most part, stuck together. But every time you made a movie, it was new actors, and so actors are always looking for work. Even they can have a successful TV show, eventually it comes to an end, and they're looking for work. And even if you're famous, you can fall off pretty quick. So, and I think that without disrespecting actors too much, there's a certain need that people have that drives them out to Hollywood to wait tables hoping to become the next Brad Pitt, that people that work across the street at Williams Lee don't necessarily have that same thing. So it is almost the perfect storm for all kinds of nonsense.
At other jobs as it would be.
It's definitely a different culture. Like you said, the drive and the desires to get to a certain place and a certain status within that whole structure out in Hollywood can force people to do things that they don't necessarily or wouldn't necessarily want to do in other sort of situations.
Because it is I think it takes a special kind of person to leave wherever they're from, Iowa or Ohio or wherever, and go to New York or Los Angeles and really struggle with the hopes of someday reaching that level. And it is feast or famine, whereas if you have a job in an office, the stakes of a promotion are not nearly that high. And gosh, I don't really even know anybody who's actively like seeking that climbing the ladder for wanting the next promotion that even talks about that. We kind of have our jobs and we work them, and for the most part, I think we're a little bit more content.
I think we also benefit with all the laws changes too, and the culture changes in offices. That the whole pay to play, the whole do this for a promotion. It's kind of hopefully weighing down. There's a lot more protections for women and others in the workplace. That it doesn't seem like they have that in Hollywood. No, there was Weinstein didn't have a manager to make sure that he wasn't harassing anybody or anything like that.
And he does amass just so much power. And again, I think they exist in that bubble where nobody really wants to say no to them, or where they can't. Whereas in a corporate structure, even there's a certain hierarchy, and there's a HR department that you can go to, and but I guess that does go back to as men, I guess we really don't know what it's like to be in that position.
I feel very fortunate. Because I work in the juvenile field, juvenile justice field. So about 75% to 80% of the people I work with are women, and just hearing their stories and the things that they deal with daily, and just the idea of walking through a parking garage and having to hold your keys a certain way, it's just mind blowing. That I guess maybe I didn't understand that as a young man. But after working with women for so many years, you kind of start to feel, relieved that I don't have to have these fears.
I actually read a post recently somewhere, and there's a guy that was talking to just like a big group. There's a big lecture or whatnot on the fears of like everyday women, and he presented a question to the group, which was split half and half or whatever it may be. And he was like, first talked to the men. He was like, so guys, like, what do you do to protect yourself from sexual harassment on a day-to-day basis? And he said that for the first little bit there wasn't any sort of reaction or anything. Everyone was mostly silent, and then then a little later a few snickers came out, and then basically people, like the guys were just like, they laughed it off. They were like, oh, nothing. And then the guy presented the question to the women, and basically just like thing after thing after thing. And like he wrote it out in a post, and on the one side the guys had nothing, and on the other side there's just this long ass list of everything that girls and women do to sort of be cautious and be ready for any sort of sexual harassment or whatever it may be that might come their way. And like you said, it's crazy, and like it's something that we don't have to deal with for the most part.
Yeah, and I think that we don't think about that. There was
it's not on our minds.
Yeah.
Which
there was a song that just this woman recently made that kind of got pretty hot on the internet, where she talked about, I think it was called "It's Tough to Be a Boy" or something like that. But it was really talking about, because there's certain things where we have to be a little bit more, follow a little bit more etiquette when dealing with women, and some guys complain about that. But then she went on and kind of listed all the things that women have to deal with, as far as you can't sleep with the window open. You have to make I don't remember the specific details, but for me that was kind of eye-opening to realize that this is just stuff that women think about every day, whether it's walking across the parking lot or I guess even just being in an elevator with a guy, like a strange guy. And so we probably don't have anything that's relatable as a dude, except for maybe, I guess, if you're in prison. And
which is probably one of the biggest fears that most straight men have is prison, for that reason by itself.
Yeah.
So if you can't have empathy for that idea, that then you haven't really thought of that scenario about being in prison.
Yeah, and so I think it's good that we're becoming more aware. All right, we're going to move on to another topic because I want to talk about the Facebook Live A Bar Game, and you said this was created by Ron Scott. And the next one is going to be on November 10th. It's 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. here at Talkaholic. Again, that's where we are now. If you've never been to Talkaholic, I'll throw a little plug in for them because their tacos are amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And they also do a lot to support music in the community. And so they're not just a restaurant. They really are.
Every Thursday night's live music.
Thursday night's live music. And they're a business that supports the local community and the local artistic community. Anyhow, so I know it's a little bit hard of a thing to explain without actually being here, but
for years I've always said that Facebook is like standing in a crowded room and screaming out an opinion.
Yeah.
You can't get upset if somebody screams something back. You can't get offended if somebody is upset about it. You stood up in this giant room and screamed something out. So Ron Scott had the idea, we could make that into a game, like a bar game.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to have Facebook in a real life scenario, situation where you're sitting up there and just screaming something out and seeing how people react. So we started working out some things and trying to figure out how do you make that into an enjoyable game, a fun game to kind of skewer Facebook and social media culture. So we figured out Facebook Live, a bar game. 2 contestants head to head. We have a host. Last time it was John Harvey. Hopefully he'll come back on the 10th and do it again. And it worked out really well. We give each contestant a subject and a reaction that they're going for. The crowd doesn't know the reaction. They have a minute to think of their status. They say their status out loud. The crowd holds up the emoji, the smiling, shocked, angry, sad, love emoji. And whoever gets the most reactions they were going for wins the round point.
I get it. So the name Facebook Live, which now I get, it's if Facebook were real.
We're real.
We're in the real world. What it would be like.
What it would look like.
So you'd give a topic, and if it was to make everybody outraged, then you would try to make a statement that would anger everybody.
So you get a lot of people saying, last time we had a lot of people saying things, kind of like Cards of Humanity, things that they would not say normally, just to, like if they got the angry emoji. Yeah. I saw the Swedish girl last time say the most horrendous thing. And she won the round, but it was just like, wow. So the flower here says, it's not for the faint of heart or easily offended,
Yeah.
And also the views aren't necessarily the views of the contestants, and they're definitely not the views of Talkaholics or the staff here. But it makes for a good time, and you have people. It has to be nuanced too. You just can't. You can say something like, "I hate Donald Trump." Or was he trying to be funny? Was he trying to be angry? You have people in the crowd that are going to love that. You got people in the crowd that are going to hate that. There's people who are going to find it funny and throw up their reactions. Yeah. And if you don't get the reaction you're looking for, you don't do well that round.
I like it. I like the idea that it's almost provoking people to make a public statement that's maybe even controversial or whatever, and it's all in good fun.
Yes.
And I think I like to see the boundaries being pushed.
Yeah, we treat it like a comedy show. If you're on stage, it's a comedy show, and don't take sit on stage seriously. It's a performance. We're up there.
Yeah.
The contestants and the hosts are pretty much performing, and we keep them in their bubble. And last time nobody was offended. Everybody had a good time, and a lot of outrageous things were said, and there was a lot of laughs. It was a great time. I think it was the best time I've had in a bar in Wheeling that wasn't a concert or comedy show for a while.
Yeah. I think I might have to come and sign up or participate. I had fun at the Bad Dad joke competition.
Yeah.
Even though I lost, me and Ron riffed there for a little bit at the end, and it's pretty fun to be up in front of a crowd and getting them laughing.
It's cool being here in Talkaholics. I think Talkaholics is probably one of the hippest places in town.
It really is.
Yeah, it's really cool, and laid back and have some prizes this time. We had a few prizes last time, and we're going to try to do another go. Hopefully, get more people this time, and I think it's going to work out.
Yeah,
I think it's going to catch on.
I think it's cool that they're willing to give a new concept like that a try, and along with Later Gator, it's good. It's one of the things that makes Wheeling really cool is that we have spots like this that are cool places to hang out, and they also are open to trying new things.
Yeah, and everybody who participated loved it. Everybody seemed like they had a blast.
That's cool.
And
yeah, it's an awesome premise. I mean, it's very engaging with the crowd and everything. So it's not just, you're not just like trying to go at one another. It's like, you're really just trying to put something out there to try to get
a reaction.
Yeah.
I think that Alvin makes a good point that the fact that the audience is participating too makes it fun for everybody.
Oh, definitely.
So even if you don't want to be up on stage, that you
can sit there with your 5 emojis.
Yeah.
Which took us a long time to figure out how we were going to vote.
Yeah.
We thought about doing it on the phone, but then it was like we don't want people on their phones. We don't want people on the actual Facebook.
Yeah.
We thought about we're still thinking about getting actual paddles made to reuse. But we figured, colored paper with emojis on them, different paper, and it worked out perfectly. And man, I can't explain it.
Facebook in real life.
Yeah. Also, the reason people think we live streaming, we do not live stream this at all.
Yeah.
And it'll never be live streamed because we want people to feel comfortable enough to say what they want to say.
Yeah.
And not be taken out of context, not having anybody on the internet be offended or we want people to come up there and
Plus, it's an experience, right?
Oh yeah, it's an experience. You have to be here to experience
You're literally like trying to break down the fact that everyone's on their phone and make it like a live experience. So why not just come over and be a part of it instead of looking from afar? Like if it's something that you'd enjoy or like I don't know, it sounds fun. You know?
It was a blast. It was a blast. And also last time, John, our host, we're still trying to think of. I'm trying to think of a good nickname for him. I'm going to brainstorm with him in a little bit. He did his face in a skull face paint because obviously Talkaholics, part of their theme here is the Day of the Dead, the candy skull thing.
Yeah.
So he kind of becomes this whole character while he's up there as the host, and it has this real game show feel to it. We play music. You play music while they make up their answers.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, we introduce him. He comes down. He interacts with the crowd. It's a good time. Yeah.
Well, I applaud you guys for taking the time to just I think a lot of times people come up with really cool ideas, but then they don't actually follow through. So I love the fact that you guys came up with the idea and then you put all the effort into making it actually happen. And I also think that it's great that people are getting out and experiencing these things in real life, and I think it's really important to have real life experiences, and I think it's kind of fun that where so many people actually live on Facebook.
You can see how it looks, how it would look like in real person.
If it was in real life,
and we're doing this through the X0 entertainment group that we have, and. We actually did the bar crawl, the comedy crawl. Two months ago. It worked out really well. And this was Ron's idea. The comedy crawl was Ron Scott's idea. And luckily, Kelsey had the idea about how to vote. Kelsey Lane,
cool.
Pokel. She's from Columbus.
Yeah.
And she does our comedian booking and a lot of the groundwork for us as well. And it worked out really well.
Well, it's good to have guys like you out there making stuff happen. First of all, I don't think it's true, but people say that there's nothing to do in Wheeling. It's not true, but it is nice to have something unique like this to look forward to, and it's those little touches that make living in the city fun. And I think anything again that gets people out in the real world. Alvin and I just got back from this epic camping trip, and I think we didn't hardly, other than GPS. We didn't use our phones for anything. I think I sent one picture and put it on Facebook from a restaurant. But other than that, just being connected in the real world for a long period of time, it's really important. And anything that gets people out into that that kind of vibe is a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, especially since everyone's got their head buried in their phones every day, every day of the week anyway. So
Yeah.
just getting human interaction is a good thing.
Yeah, and just to you can see pictures, but to see it in real life, and for me, the experience of sleeping in the tent when it's cold outside and then it rained, and I'm like laying in the tent and it's raining and I'm going crap,
How cold was it?
It probably got down
It
to
was near freezing.
yeah, probably like 35.
Oh, that's rough.
Yeah.
I know my house flooded last year, and this year, and my heater was down for about a week and a half. So I was like, 45 degrees isn't so bad. I
Yeah.
can stay in the house at 45 degrees.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how cold 45 degrees is until my heat was out.
Right. Yeah. It brings your body temperature down pretty quick, but it wasn't a life or death struggle, obviously. But I did like the fact that it, and we even talked about this around the campfire, that you have a certain comfort zone, and so to get pushed outside of that comfort zone, it only expands it. So coming back from that trip, the level of what is acceptable for me as far as where I feel comfortable is much bigger now than before I left. Just the weirdness of being out in the dark, in the middle of nowhere in the woods with a bear warning on the picnic table, and you're like, well, I'm still going to sleep in a tent tonight. I'm not going to sleep in the car, and you get through that, and kind of my fear of the dark and being out in the woods after just 3 days of camping out in these very remote campsites, I became more and more comfortable with the idea of it. And I think had that been like a 10-day trip, by the end I'd been like, I don't care.
Yeah.
But that feeling, like I said, laying there in the middle of the night and it's raining and thinking, how am I going to get this tent packed up and get moved on to the next place if it's still raining in the morning? And you just kind of, you figure it out and you move on. And I don't think we let the cold or rain ruin the trip one bit. And so that kind of molding your brain to going, well, it is what it is. And none of it really brought me down. I don't think any of it brought you down. And so it and also, you get back home and you take that warm shower in your own house and sleep in your own bed.
Yeah, I've been there.
It never feels better than, after you've had a...
Yeah, man, first showers are awesome.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
It is, yeah. So I think it's the experience of roughing it for, 3 or 4 days, to have the experience of the warm shower when you get back. It's almost worth it just to have that juxtaposition and kind of reset your reality a little bit. So I think when you were on a radio show a while back, what the topic were you guys talking about?
We were talking about Kanye.
Kanye, yeah. Let's talk about Kanye, because he's been in the news a lot lately with the president, and
I to me, Kanye is still a 13-year-old boy, like mentally and emotionally.
Yeah.
And I think the whole Kardashian thing is a 13-year-old boy's fantasy.
Yeah.
He's living his fantasy, but emotionally, I don't think he's there. He's not a grown man emotionally or mentally right now, or at all to me at all. And it's been like that for a long time.
Yeah.
He's a great musician, a genius, and I'm still a huge fan. Like that song, I love it. I was just pumped. I felt like we had the old Kanye back for a little bit.
yeah.
When it comes to president, I think he has somebody who's never wanted anything from him. It's hard for him to find somebody that doesn't want to collaborate or needs money or anything.
Yeah.
That shows him, respect or to his face, and he's the president, and that has to be really. I mean, it makes him feel good.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Sure, it pumps him up. Yeah.
Definitely an ego boost when I think Obama kind of slated him.
Oh yeah, he called him a jackass.
Oh, he did? Yeah.
He did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I heard it was kind of the state of the world that we live in. I heard part of his conversation with Trump, and just the way he was talking to the president of the United States, and Trump's just going, yeah.
I haven't been so embarrassed. It felt like a child talking to their parent who's busy and doesn't want to, who wants to pretend they're interested, but they're not really interested. Like when he showed them the phone, I haven't been embarrassed for another person in a very, very long time. He doesn't seem like he's well right now. It's not about him being a Trump supporter because that's fine.
Are you talking about Kanye or Trump?
Kanye, yeah. It's fine if he's a Trump supporter, and I support his politics wherever they may, even wherever they may be, even though it doesn't seem like it's a political thing for him. He's not making sense. He seems very incoherent at times. His ideas aren't blending together. He's saying random things. I don't know how this is going to end for him.
Yeah. Well, and you wonder, is he a product of he's been isolated in this bubble of fame with Kim Kardashian and who says no to him? That it's allowed him to kind of go off the deep end. And is it an emotional problem, a physical problem, or is he just in an environment where
it's the bubble? You can't. It's hard to argue against it being a bubble.
Yeah.
In the mid 2000s, you have a Kanye that kind of mocked and parodied the Kanye of today. He talked about the desires of wealth and how insecure he is, and Gold Digger is. I mean, a song was made for women like Kim Kardashian. I'm sure she's a lovely lady, but you listen to the lyrics of the song, and man, that he's singing about Kim Kardashian in that song "Gold Digger." So he's lost himself. Even his old working partners like Jay-Z, he has no contact with anymore.
Yeah.
And you wonder who from his old life he keeps contact with. He's lost in the Kardashian reality TV world.
Yeah.
I think our whole society is lost in the reality TV world as it is right now. I mean, shit, we got a reality TV president, right? And he can pop off and say whatever he wants, and there's no repercussions of anything because, that's just how it's been in our society for the past however many years. Like the past 20, 30 years, reality TV has become more and more a part of the society and part of something that people want to watch. Like they want to see something that's real, but I mean, in all reality, a lot of reality TV is fake.
Yeah.
They're saying things just to say things. They're saying things to get reactions, to get those ratings up. And that's exactly what's happened now. They're saying things to get that coverage. Like, I can't remember who said it, but like no bad press is like bad press.
Any press is good press, even bad press. Yeah.
I think it comes to a point where when the president talks, people don't take it seriously. They don't think it's a real statement or it has real life consequences. It's almost feels like reality TV. So when he dismisses women like the Kavanaugh accuser or her statements about the Saudi journalist, that's just another entertaining soundbite. But these things have real life consequences, and I don't think we're going to see the full scale of the consequences of his actions until many years later.
Yeah,
and it'll be easy for people to deny that he was like the genesis of a lot of issues we're going to have in the future, especially culturally and financially and environmentally.
So that's kind of where Kanye is too. Like he's such a voice in the culture. He's such a voice in the everyday lives of a lot of people, and for him to just go out and say things that don't necessarily he doesn't seem like he understands what he's saying, or has the right thought or foresight in what he's trying to put out there. Like, some of it makes sense if you can twist it around a little bit. He's supporting Make America Great Again because it's
he's trying to be a trendsetter, and this is about going against the grain.
So we did a quick battery change there. So if there's a little inconsistency there, calm down. Everybody calm down. It's a podcast. But yeah, so while I was changing the batteries, we were kind of talking about the situation with the report in Saudi Arabia and the president's, and I call him the president because I think it's important to point out that this is the person that is the president of our country. And to me that, I got a little annoyed with the baby Trump flying over England.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people love that, but I thought that was a tremendous trivializing of a serious situation and a waste of energy. And I think that it's a symptomatic of a thing in society where we tend to do the thing that makes us feel good versus the thing that actually solves the problem.
Oh, yeah.
And so from that standpoint, I thought that if the people that erected that big baby Trump, and I think they had some legitimate reasons, obviously, but that energy could have been better spent doing something more constructive. And the one example that I saw was while he was giving a speech, this big think tank in real time was fact-checking him and putting the facts on the side of the screen as it was going along. And I thought, now that's something that's legitimate that would actually could eventually have a long-lasting effect to call bullshit as it's happening. And for the sake of the country, any president, they should do that to any politician that's speaking. If you have enough people that can do it, to real-time fact-check what they're saying. And there's really no reason why you couldn't go back and get these old speeches and put them out on YouTube with the little pop-up video. Remember that from MTV?
Oh, yeah.
If you did pop-up video of a speech with all the truthful or the things that weren't true as they're happening.
Well, I think the truth, I mean, is especially with his supporters, I've said for a long time that politics, once we take a side, we're willing to accept and adopt things that we wouldn't if they weren't on our side. And I think on the right, we're seeing a lot of people accepting, making excuses for, and adopting things that they would never adopt because he is taking these stances.
Yeah, tribalism at its worst.
And it makes you. And I would love to see, if these things happened 2 or 3 years ago, what people's reactions would be. And I like to think they would be different.
Put a different face on them. Yeah.
But I mean, if your goal is to overturn Roe v. Wade, or you're in the coal mines and your only concern is keeping that job for as long as you can, you're willing to accept a lot of bullshit until in the name of your best interest.
Yeah.
So you have what's the evangelical's name?
Jim Baker.
No, the 700 Club.
Oh, Pat Robertson.
Pat Robertson. You see him this week. You said, the Saudi reporter was murdered, and it's probably the Saudis, but we had this huge arms deal with them, and we can't let that go. It's gonna cause jobs. We're selling them these weapons of mass destruction. So let's just calm down, everybody. You're a Christian. Defending or making excuses for the dismemberment and murder of a reporter, an innocent man that lived in the United States because we're selling weapons to a hardline right-wing.
Well, and as a Christian, he is a child of God, just like everybody else, regardless of. So, is Pat Robertson saying that an American life is more valuable than another life? As a Christian, I would think that the answer to that should always be no. That every life is valuable in the eyes of God if you're a true Christian. But obviously,
well, this is something he would
veneer.
not. This is something he would not. He would never say in the Obama administration, the Clinton administration, or anything like that. His views would be totally different. And I would, I'm human, and I would love to think that I would still be outraged as much as possible, as much as I am now under Obama. I hope I really hope that I'm better than that. I can't say for sure if I am or not. You can't. It's hard to. It's easy for me to say, "Oh yeah, no, I'd totally still be upset."
Yeah.
I'd hope I am. I hope.
Yeah. But it's because they are such different kinds of presidents. It's really hard to tell.
Luckily, I didn't have to, deal with the president, who is a 72-year-old elderly man talking like that on social media. I couldn't imagine my father talk like that to calling a woman a horse face and insulting people like that. I mean, I don't associate with people or friends that talk so petty to people, and especially women. It's just,
if one of us
it truly is petty.
Oh, it's weird.
Well, and if we were not recording a podcast now, and one of us at this table made that comment about a woman that was here in the bar, the other two would look at us like, "What's your problem, dude?"
That's weird, man.
Yeah. So here's my question to you guys. Kanye, Trump, Cosby, Weinstein, all this stuff that's going on. Is it a manifestation that is it? I guess, are they the canaries in the mine of the civilization and society that we live in, and are they the start of the problem, or are they just the most physical manifestation of the problem? And I kind of have this theory that we've had this big technological revolution, Twitter, Facebook, smartphones, the ability to communicate and anonymously and at least not face to face is something so new that society we're like kids driving a tank. We don't really know how to handle ourselves. And you can even go back 30 years, just the advent of TV. But even going back to the turn of the century, the way people lived before the turn of the century wasn't much different from the way their grandparents lived. And the way we live now is so much different than the way we lived. I mean, I'm 50. This is different than the way it was when I was 40. And I can't imagine how much different it's going to be. So even you saw the owner of Generations. He made a comment. It blew up on Facebook in a way that access to saying something and having it spread is so new. And there's a thing where Facebook and the internet will smack you back in the face. It's a heavily loaded weapon that most people realize they don't carry in their back pocket. And if you use it wrong, it can sting you.
I will say social media. Where was I going with this?
I know I kind of wrapped a bunch of things into one. I didn't stop talking.
We may have been better off before we knew everybody's opinion on every small little matter.
Yeah.
And I get upset when people make the claim that Obama divided the nation, because my observation is social media has divided the nation, because we have been able to see the deepest and darkest inner thoughts of people close to us. I've been saying in the black community, there's a whole generation of young black people that kind of got culture shock around 8 years ago. Let's say it's about the time of the Trayvon Martin case, where there's a lot of views that we just thought were extinct. A lot of attitudes that we just didn't realize were still out there. And suddenly they're in your pocket, and suddenly you're seeing them over and over multiple times a day. That I feel like I've seen a lot of people that were super, let's say, use the term agreeable, suddenly become more and more outspoken, maybe even a little bit more hardline when it comes to issues like that. And so it's a good thing. So social media, for one, I say, it has caused a lot of divisions, but I also feel like it's a double-edged sword there. Right. I feel like I also think that a lot of the rights and progress that were made in the gay community, you have to say we're helped out and pushed forward with social media. Suddenly everybody's hearing their stories, and you see a huge wave of acceptance around 8 years ago when smartphones started becoming a real big thing.
I think Alvin, do you have any?
Yeah, I mean, definitely with the advent of this new technology, it's been good for knowledge and connecting the world, but it also at the same time, it allows a lot of negativity as well, and there's a lot less repercussions for these things. And I think we're seeing a lot of that, even like more so now, is that a lot of people are allowed to go out and say whatever they want, and no one's checking them. You know what I mean? Like, whether that's a product of the technology and product of social media and product of whatnot, I can't really say for sure. But like you were saying, definitely a lot of people's inner thoughts are coming out, and you know, that's not to say it's a bad thing, because being able to speak your mind, it's good for you, right? It's good to, you shouldn't keep things in, but yeah, there's still a lot of stuff that's kind of dicey that's being said that, like you were saying, maybe 8 years ago, we thought that was all in the past.
Well, I'll say, like, especially with the Trayvon Martin case, it was, man, for me at least, to see so many people so quickly and gleefully accept the story that to me sounded absurd, that this kid hid in the bushes and attacked this guy unprovoked, with no drugs in the system, no alcohol, nobody egging him on, and no crowd. Just decided to hide in the bushes and attack this guy. And you have people throughout social media being like, "Oh yeah, they'll do that sometimes," or "Hey, those kids, or those young black kids, you just can't." I believe it, and
I mean, we could see now, like, just by George Zimmerman's actions and what he says, like, you can tell he's a piece of shit.
Yeah. So how quickly that was accepted. That narrative, like that, I think that was like a switch that started the divide.
Yeah.
One of the divides in the country. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that I had an impression that certain things like racism and sexism, that we had come a long way, and then you kind of realize that in many ways we have, but in many ways we still have a long way to go, and that kind of the juxtaposition of the Obama presidency, where people had impeached Obama and signs in your yard for 8 years. They couldn't tell you a single policy that they objected to, and they would claim till the end of the day that it had nothing to do with the fact that he was black, yet they really didn't have any other reason why they wanted him to be impeached. They couldn't name an impeachable offense. They just, other than I think maybe the birth certificate thing. And then on the other hand, you see people with the Trump presidency that almost feel a license to even take that a step further. And in many ways, you see how deep these feelings that I had thought were more behind us than they are have really started to surface.
Yeah, it was like 08. I remember 08, volunteering locally for the Obama campaign. And some of these volunteers that came back because they were holding signs downtown Wheeling, pro-Obama signs, they were just so shocked that people would drive past and scream racial slurs to them,
Really? Yeah.
These white volunteers. And I was like, yeah, that's why I'm not going to go canvassing with you guys.
Yeah. Right.
I said that before. I'm like, I'm not walking around these neighborhoods, with the Obama stickers. And that's always reminded me, well, West Virginia is such a interesting state when it comes to politics. Hillary beat Obama by 30%, roughly. So did McCain, and then the polls showed that Hillary would have beat McCain that election, and it wasn't politics because Obama essentially was probably more centered than Hillary was.
Yeah.
Especially with healthcare, Hillary wanted a single payer. So it was hard for me to accept the excuses why Obama didn't really catch on in West Virginia.
Yeah, I really, because I had a lot of debates with different people, not a lot, but enough that anybody that I had a conversation with that was very anti-Obama, they could never really give me anything other than birth certificate, but no specific policy, how it would impact their life, what they didn't like. In fact, I had one woman tell me that she was 100% against Obamacare and that we should have a health care system like they have in Canada. And I said, yeah, that's what Obamacare is.
Yeah,
and they even did a poll where they asked a group of people, do you favor Obamacare? They said no. Do you favor universal health care where everybody in the country can have access to health care? Basically outlined Obamacare, but they didn't call it that. And the number of people that were for it. So that to me was the biggest sign of the fact that it was because they didn't like Obama, because they liked the bill as long as his name wasn't on it.
Obama triggered something in a lot of people, and I noticed a lot of people, and some of them were Hillary supporters, some of them were middle of the road, suddenly shifted to the far right really quickly. And I think you look at Trump's statements before '08. Trump's one of those people that Obama moved something inside of him that caused him to kind of lose it. He was a Hillary supporter before '08. He donated to Hillary. He spoke highly of her. He said he'd vote for her before Obama won the nomination. A lot of his views were very liberal. Not all of them, but many of them were. And then suddenly in '09, something's changed in him. Suddenly he's super conservative, and suddenly
dissed at the correspondence dinner. Didn't he?
That was like 2013. That was like after 4 years of him questioning his birth certificate. So something. I like Obama derangement system. I can't say for sure what it was about Obama that made somebody like Trump kind of lose it and shift to the right as far as he did.
Yeah.
But I think it was a real thing.
Yeah, there was a shift there, right? Let's talk about Hillary for a second. I had brought this up in a group of people one other time, and the minute I criticized Hillary, I was accused of being like this big Trump supporter, and I said, no, I didn't like her. I thought that if there's going to be a candidate to come forward to challenge the next Trump in the next election, I think that, and I'm not far from a political expert, but I think that the Democratic Party needs to look at where they went wrong. That did they back the wrong candidate for the wrong reasons, and she was not popular in general. There were a lot of people that
I feel like it was building up for a while, even before she started campaigning and doing whatever. Like even when she was Secretary of State, and just everything before leading up to it was just leaving bad taste after bad taste in people's mouths, and it just like it all culminated when she got nominated as the Democratic representative for president. I feel like that was just like the push for anyone kind of on the bubble. Because Bernie was riding a crazy groundswell of just, I think back to the conversation of like people being in bubbles. I think she was definitely in a bubble. Yeah. And Bernie wasn't. Like he was out there talking to people, and that's kind of what Trump was doing too. He was out there talking to folks. Even if what he was saying wasn't what he believed or what he actually does, like he was still out there talking to regular folks within the country, which is the same thing that Bernie was. And that was like one of the big problems that they were saying about Hillary was that she took people for granted. She took constituents for granted. She didn't take her time to go out to places like Wisconsin. She didn't take her time to go out to places in Pennsylvania because she seemingly had it in the bag. And I think that's part of the reason why, she didn't do well and other politicians don't do well is because there is this disconnect. Or I think that's part of the problem with the whole political system in general, whether it be the electoral college, because there is that disconnect between what people feel and what people have to say, and then it doesn't necessarily seem like we're being represented in the best way in that kind of structure. as we.
I will say. I mean, when you talk about the Democrats, they didn't really have too many options in 2016. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I can't even name the other three candidates.
Yeah, me neither.
You got the former mayor from Baltimore, and two other guys. So you had Bernie and Hillary, and I mean, I know Bernie had a very dedicated and passionate following. But even if the small things didn't happen to Bernie, I don't see him overtaking Hillary in votes. He was just too much of an unknown, and the Clinton name was just too strong among older Democrats. Now, I mean, if somebody like Joe Biden would have ran, or Wesley Clark or something like that, somebody with more of a bigger name, maybe they could have did better. Hopefully, this time there's a bigger crowd to choose from.
Well, I think that hopefully this time they put up a better candidate, because I know that a lot of people, and I was one of them that I was not a big fan of Hillary. I thought that it was the choice between a wolf and a sheep, and a wolf in sheep's clothing, and I think she kind of stole the nomination from Bernie, because out of nowhere he dropped out, and they said that she won, and there was even some evidence to point that the votes were rigged, and how true that really is. But I think that people that would not necessarily vote for Hillary might have.
Oh, I think somebody like Joe Biden would have won that election easily.
Yeah.
I think it's funny that during the election I said each party picked a candidate that only the other person could lose to.
Yeah.
Like no other Democrat would have lost to Trump.
Yeah.
And no other Republican would have lost or could have lost to Hillary.
Yeah.
Or came even close to losing to Hillary.
Yeah.
They picked two of the most unfavorable or unsavory candidates for each party.
Yeah, and I think that comes back to being a symptom of the culture that we live in. That and like Alvin was kind of pointing out, I think that all these things are kind of, to answer my own question, a symptom of the culture and the times that we live in. For a really good candidate, a smart person to run for president, anybody that would make a good president, smart enough to know they don't want that job, and they make it so hard for a really good candidate because they rip each other down. And I think that if you go from the Congress to the presidency, a lot of people have complaints about the government, and I think part of it is that our society has outgrown our system of government. Things were kind of created when we were a relatively small 13 colonies. It wasn't made for when we have international trade, where Russian bots influence people on Facebook, where the real power is in money and these corporations who, despite who's the actual head of the board or the president of the company, they're their own entities. They're almost, in fact, they're considered legally to be their own kind of beings. So no system of government has been created to kind of deal with corporations, to deal with communication as massive as it is, and so much of what we do is international. We're not isolated like we used to be, and I don't know what form of government would even account for that, because more and more the idea of borders in general are becoming ridiculous. You have this company that they mostly operate in the United States, but their headquarters is in some country you never heard of for tax reasons.
Oh yeah,
and so the amount of money that they can throw behind this person or that person, and I think that our candidates are really in many ways, it's the illusion of choice. I've heard that said many times, that you think that you're really picking somebody, and one thing that Trump getting elected did dispel for me was the idea that some big corporate entity was behind that, or
well, for a second there, I don't believe in the New World Order or Illuminati, but
no, I don't either.
When the Access Hollywood tape came out, I was like, "Oh, see the fixes, and this is all rigged. This is all fake."
That's funny. I was just thinking that too.
I was like, "Wait, no."
Yeah, that's why I was like, "There's no way that Trump's gonna win, because the powers that be aren't gonna let him sit in power, and then it happened." I was like, "Well, I guess that's not a real thing."
I think this election, more than almost any election, will show people that who the president matters. A lot of things that are going on right now, it's hard to imagine would happen under a Clinton presidency, good or bad, depending on which side of the aisle you're on. That whole idea that we're threatening these South American countries, South and Central American countries, their aid, if they don't stop this caravan, is monstrous to me. The idea is like, oh, if you don't stop these refugees from coming through your country, we're going to take away the money that we give you every year.
Which is, to me, just on a logical level, is insane. It's the fact that they have poor conditions in their country is what drives them up here. If people wanted to limit the number of, just say, Mexicans illegally immigrating to the United States, the best thing you could do is improve the quality of life in Mexico for those people, so that they would no longer have the need to illegally cross and walk through the desert and possibly die to come to a country where they're not respected, they don't speak the language, and where they don't necessarily have all the legal rights that everybody else has. I would think that if you try to just talk me into moving a state away, that would be hard. So what does it take for a person to leave
the journey they make is amazing, and they are very, very brave, and if you look at the journey and actually watch some documentaries, they're very desperate too to make a horribly dangerous journey like they do. Nobody ever wants to talk about a lot of the issues in these South American, Central America countries. It's caused by our demand for drugs.
Yeah.
Or the drug war that we've pushed, and our demand for things like cocaine and heroin has caused these countries to fall into turmoil. Like we're the number one demand. We're the one fueling the hostilities in these countries.
I agree. If you wanted to stem the tide of illegal immigration, the best thing you could do is legalize drugs, and it would immediately, and not immediately, but it would take a while for these countries to recover. But a lot of the violence and economic issues that these refugees are facing would kind of disappear. I think we're about to get drowned out by the band here. Any final thoughts, guys?
No, this was enjoyable. I appreciate you guys having me on. I'd like to shout out to Talkaholics again.
Yeah, thank you, Talkaholics.
They're amazing food. Don't forget about Facebook Live, a bar game, November 10th here at Talkaholics at 7 p.m. We're going to be playing all night, so you can come in at any time and join in and get a packet to vote and sign up. We do rounds every half hour, so you can sign up and play any time during the night.
Nice. Hey, thanks. I'm glad we finally got to get together to do this. Alvin, thanks, my man, for coming on and being co-host. And I always extend this to any guest. Once you're a guest on the show, you're always welcome to come on as a co-host. And I enjoy this level of discourse that you don't get to have in everyday life. And thanks again, everybody, for listening to the podcast. And come on out to Talkaholics, get some great food. Come out on November 10th for Facebook Live. And until the next time.
X Zero Entertainment.
X0, that's right. X's and Zeros Entertainment. Is that right? Exit Zero. Exit, like the way out, the door out. Okay, good. Exit Zero Entertainment. And they're doing some cool things here in the Valley. So support that. Support local musicians, artists, and even now entertainment bookers. And until the next time, See ya.
Yeah, what they know about this? KRS, you know what's up. Let's roll. Back on the block, boy, look out for the cops, boy. Stop, boy, bumps about the drop, boy. You shot, boy. Hip hop knocks, boy. The wax, the nemesis, mayhem, nausea, KRS, X's. Trying to escape the race, the hunger that's felt from state to state. Cats breaking they plate. Politicians always too late. From Atlanta all the way to Holland. I think my people need a break.